Ever since I developed an interest for smartphones, I always wanted to own a Google smartphone. Google has never made its Nexus or Pixel devices available in my country and in many other countries for that matter. And this time I couldn't resist and I ended up importing the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro from the US. The primary reason for me to import these devices was this entirely new and cool looking design. The impressive price tag and apparently a very powerful hardware also contributed. I have used these devices for a while and now I am ready to give you my full review on the Pixel 6. As always, I would like to start off with the design and build of this phone. Design is definitely a head turner. The camera module at the back is the sole reason to make this phone this unique. Pixel 6 is fully built out of glass and premiumness can be felt at every single angle of this smartphone. This premiumness also has a downside that the Pixel 6 keeps slipping out of my hands. The phone is just too glossy and shiny to attract a lot of fingerprints and smudges. The camera hump at the back is big enough to act as a grip for this phone, as if you are holding a DSLR camera with its grip. This is a water and dust resistant phone and it's protected by Gorilla Glass Victus and Gorilla Glass 6. The glass build also gives this phone the ability to charge wirelessly. Aluminium frame of this phone comes with a matte black finish and it hosts the power and volume keys on the same side. I think that the power button is not placed rightly because I often end up pressing the volume keys for the power keys and vice versa. The phone lacks a headphone jack and a microSD card slot, which means you are either stuck with 128 gigs of storage or 256 gigs at max. Pixel 6 is a handy device. Its 4614 mAh battery helps keep its size small. The Salta Seafoam is my favorite color, which obviously is the reason why I got this one, but other colors of the Pixel 6 are also badass. Display on this phone, well, it's become kind of controversial. Although Google has used a 90Hz AMOLED panel with good brightness, but this display is not as good as the display of the Pixel 6 Pro. I watched a lot of other reviews before compiling my own review and I saw that many people were facing issues with the display. The main issue is the slight color shift when you tilt the phone. Although it's not noticeable, but it is there. You can see a pink or greenish color tint on the screen when you tilt the phone. You won't find this while using your phone normally. So if you decide to ignore this, you can fully enjoy it as a normal issue-free display. Also, this display is not as bright as the Pixel 6 Pro screen, but it's still good enough to keep elements bright even in the broad daylight. The 90Hz seems to be a cost-cutting measure here, but you won't dislike it. Bezels on the screen are notable, not too huge. The punch hole in my opinion is a little big. Overall, whether you watch videos or play games, you are going to find this display pretty good. The display has a fingerprint scanner underneath. This scanner did not work quite well for most users back in the day, but I find it pretty good and I think Google has optimized it in the latest software updates. Before I talk about the software, I would like to talk about the haptics and speakers. Haptic feedback from this phone is subtle. I find it lovely. It's clicky, but not too clicky to make itself felt. I have loved typing on this phone. The haptics motor does its job nicely. I am not super impressed with the speakers, so the stereo speakers are not loud enough and they are not as crisp either. Speakers are just fine in my opinion. Software is what these Pixel devices are all about, and looks like this time things have not worked out pretty well. I'll talk about that in a while, but let's talk about the good stuff first. Pixel 6 brings the Android 12 out of the box and this neat Pixel UI has no competition. No bloatware on these phones. Elements look super cool. The distraction-free UI is what most users opt for, but this also means that the Pixel devices are not loaded with a load of features like the Samsung devices. These devices have minimal features on a minimal UI. Yes, there are some cool features like the back tap gestures to perform an action and some other gestures for that matter. Google's phones generally get the Android updates before other manufacturers, but this time the updates have been lackluster. Google has failed to roll out the software updates in time. There are many users, including me, who still haven't got the December update while December has almost ended. Pixel 6 came out hosting some bugs, including that widespread connectivity bug, and that issue still hasn't been fixed for many users. While Google has delivered amazing hardware this time, the software has been lagging behind, and Google needs to fix this as soon as possible. In terms of hardware, the Pixel 6 brings its own Tensor chipset. The Tensor has the DNA of Samsung's Exynos chipset. Because of this powerful chipset, the Pixel 6 is capable of delivering unmatched performance. The numbers in the benchmark apps are definitely flagship level, and this chipset also helps this phone with multitasking, amazing ISP, and of course the gaming. I have played several games on this phone and I can't say that I didn't like the experience. The games ran smooth with maxed out graphics. The phone does heat up, but I think that kind of heat is normal for a phone having such a chipset and hardware. The RAM of 8 gigs is more than enough here, but 128 or 256 gigs of storage might not be enough for some users. But then you can use the Google Photos to store the photos and free up the onboard storage. Google has plenty of options to entertain its users, and this now brings us to the cameras. The main camera sensor is a 50 megapixel sensor with optical image stabilization. I'll mention the details for the rest on the screen. The camera app is also basic as it is in all the Google smartphones. On the Pixel 6 you get features like Top Shot to select the best scene from a moving photo. You also get the Magic Eraser feature to erase objects from photos thanks to the Tensor chip again. When it comes to capturing videos, I found its camera super stable. I don't know why people had issues with its stability back in the day, but as you can see these handheld videos while I am walking, these are pretty stable, aren't they? Furthermore, the Pixel 6 can shoot ultra-wide videos in 1080p in both the 30 and 60 frames per second, but ultra-wide 4K 60fps videos are not possible. I think the resolution could be better here, but I find these videos pretty good for a phone like this. This kind of stability and video options are not available in any other phone of this category. You may be able to find these same video options and stability in the S20 Fan Edition or the upcoming S21 Fan Edition. Watch these video samples and I'll see you with the photos in a bit. This is the front camera video from the Google Pixel 6, the non-Pro variant, and I actually brought the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro both outside with me today to record these camera samples, and I can see the pause button in the video here, and I can also see the screen capture button, but there is no button to switch between the front and the rear cameras. Also, I think the Pixel 6 is limited to 1080p video recording from the front camera. Pixel 6 Pro can do 4K videos from its front camera as well, but the Pixel 6 here lacks this option. This is one of the camera differences between these two phones, and I'll mention rest of the details underneath this video. For now, you have to be the judge for the mic's voice recording quality, stability, colors and other factors that make a front camera's video good enough. And I'll just show you around to show you how it captures the highlights, the dynamic range, shadows. Make sure to subscribe and drop your feedback in the comment section. The photos from the Pixel 6 have a warm tone overall. These are not very highly detailed photos but acceptable for this phone. Saturation is pretty high and highlight and shadow management is on point. The edge detection in the portrait mode is a hit and miss. This needs a lot of improvements. Whether you take portraits from the front or rear cameras, the poor edge detection can be seen everywhere. The night mode performance of this phone is also good. This is a good camera, but there is a lot of work to be done in order to make it great. Since this is a new device, I would want to wait and see what Google does to improve it in near future. Battery life on the Pixel 6 is pretty darn good. This phone will easily last for a day on average usage. If you do a lot of resource intensive things on the phone, the screen on time will still easily go above 7 hours. The key factor here is the lower down 90Hz refresh rate on the AMOLED panel. If you use the dark mode on top of that, you can definitely add a few extra minutes to that battery output. This phone doesn't bring a charger out of the box. It supports 30 watt fast charging, so if you have a nice charging brick, you can definitely benefit from that charging speed. And yeah, like I said earlier, the wireless charging feature is also there and nice to have this one. If you are wondering why I haven't drawn a line between the Pixel 6 Pro and the Pixel 6 in this video, that is because I did not want my review to get influenced by my experience of the Pixel 6 Pro, and I wanted to focus entirely on this phone since it falls in most people's budget. And after thoroughly testing it, here is what I think. See, the Pixel 6 is a pure value for money sub-flagship device and it ticks most boxes. I think most users can live without a telephoto lens. I wouldn't call it a deal breaker here. As a Samsung user, I would have loved having a microSD card slot on this phone, but again, even companies like Samsung are moving towards removing the microSD card slots from their future phones. The headphone jack is already a thing of past. So where does this phone actually lag? Well, Google needs to fix its broken software and the underlying bugs. Google also needs to improve its camera quality, especially the edge detection in the portrait mode and the depth effect. Apart from these issues, I think the Pixel 6 is a complete device for anyone looking for a powerhouse under a nominal price. So this phone gets my recommendation. I'll be soon comparing the Pixel 6 with the Galaxy S21 Fan Edition and some other upcoming devices. Not to miss any of my upcoming videos, consider subscribing to my channel and help me reach the 100k goal. With that being said, I will sign off and see you all in the next one.